No, I think we need to be specific and say 3.
That's fine.
So far for now.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. I think we had agreed on this, but I stand corrected, that we were going to say that the board is non-existent, because as it stands, there's actually no board because of Prof. Maguve's resignation. And then just more technical amendments. I think in the report we've been quite good about mentioning legislation when we talk about people and when we talk about the board's duties and we talk about the minister's duties. So in the observation here about fiduciary duties, can I once again, I know I've hopped on and on about this, but I think it's quite important, include the legislation, the PFMA specifically, which speaks directly to fiduciary duties, just so that the report is consistent. Thanks, Chair.
Can I, and I don't want to okay, let's take Killian.
Chairperson, I just have a little concern with regard to the reference that we're making to the group executives. Remember, we have the executive committee, which is provided for in the Act, and then there are several executive members who form the managerial team. Now, if we here refer to 3, then it means that we're only referring to those who are represented in the board. And those are the Group Chief Executive Officer, the Chief Financial Officer, and the Chief Operating Officer. So my concern is just perhaps we should be specific, failed to provide leadership which had prevented the Executive Committee from carrying out their operational duties. Now, if you say, but who's the Executive Committee, then obviously it is as per the Act. And I think then they must direct the rest of the executives. So if we refer to that, then because the board is supposed to manage the executive, and the Executive Committee consists of the 3 executives as those represented in the board, as well as the rest. But I think that is self-explanatory, so my recommendation would be that we don't say group executives as a collective, but that we say the Executive Committee.
I play devil's advocate. We are, excuse me, we are talking about the board. And those executives that constitute the board are only 3. The Executive Committee is not part of the board, and they have no fiduciary duties.
Can I rephrase then? Should we then perhaps refer to the specific positions? The 3 executive positions, meaning the group, the company CEO, the group CEO, the COO, and the CFO. Acting positions, all of them.
That's fine. Can I just go to Ma'am Van Dam's one, and again there, I don't want to belabor it, and maybe the legal team will correct me. You know, the reason why, let me take total ownership of it, and so that I get crucified, not with everybody else. The reason why I put dysfunctional in my own head is that whilst we agree that there were, at the time of writing this report, no non-executive board members, but strictly speaking, there was still a board, even if it was dysfunctional. I mean, even if it couldn't correlate, there was still a board, and that's why we're saying the board has to be dissolved. Now, if we say, what we said, just no board or something like that, is it not technically incorrect? Because my understanding is that the only way to dissolve a board is through the process we're going through. So it's safer to say dysfunctional, whilst we know for all intents and purposes, there was no board. But I think legislation says we've got to dissolve it, and I'm looking at you. I'm just, technically I think it's correct, isn't it? Yes, and then Fana, I beg your pardon, then Honorable Mokwena.
It says at the time of adoption of this report, so it would be on the 28th. So can we then, to cover your point to say dysfunctional, can we then say during the course of the inquiry, the board was dysfunctional? Not at the adoption, because that wouldn't be correct, because at the adoption, there will not be a board. There isn't a board. So during the inquiry, the board was dysfunctional.
Honorable Mokwena?
No, I'm fine.
Love you too, my brother. We'll take out the words Khoza, Chauke, Loliwe, Killian, and Matlangu. Anything else on 1-1, on 12-1-1 and 12-1-2? No. 12-1-3 up to 12-1-8. 12-1-3 to 12-1-8.
Chair, I'm seeking your guidance here under observations. Like, for example, 12.1.3, we talk about the board and how it erred with regards to the MOI, and that's quite correct. But nowhere do we talk about the person who actually wrote the MOI, who blatantly transgressed certain laws and signed the MOI. There's no mention of the minister anyway. And I was just wondering, where do we fit her in? Because if you look at the previous recommendations or observations, that we had, 13.2, this is a previous document from last week. I mean, evidence provided during the testimony indicated that the minister had direct interaction with certain board members in an attempt to have them resign or removed, for example, and we stated all the different pieces of legislation that she had transgressed there. 13.2.2, there were allegations that the minister was actively involved in the appointment of the COO, etc. And so it goes on. 13.2.4, the amendment initiated or signed off by the minister to the MOI was in conflict with the Broadcasting Act. I don't see it, but maybe 16. I've been told it's under 16. Let me just see.
What is 16?
It's 16, yeah.
Oh, it's there. Let's see. Let me just see. Just hang on, please, Chair. Okay, I'll talk to it there. I mean, it's one paragraph, really. But anyway, okay, I'll talk to it there, Chair. Thank you for your indulgence. Thank you very much.
Anything else on page 39? Honorable Matlangu?
Chair, you'll pardon me because I've changed my font and therefore, but I'm speaking to 12.16. I'm not sure whether it falls within that category. If it, oh, it's not. Okay.
No, that's the next page.
Okay, sorry.
Let's just deal with that one. Is there anything on page 39? No. Page 39. 12.1.1, 12.1.2, and 12.1.3. Honorable Mokwena.
No, Chair, I think Honorable Waters is correct, even though he has withdrawn himself. But in terms of the fiduciary duties of the board, I think it must be mentioned that their capacity or ability to dispense of such duties were curtailed by the minister's involvement. I don't mind even if we have to repeat it under that other heading. But here, to some extent, it wasn't out of their own doing or their own neglect, but it was the direct influence of the minister's involvement. And I think we have to put it in there. Yeah, thanks, Chair.
Honorable Honorable Killian and then Honorable Matlangu, and Honorable Chauke, can I just refocus us again? Fiduciary duties are the premise of the board. Now, if the board did something because Vincent said it, can't justify why the board did something wrong. No, I'm hearing what you're saying, so I'm asking other members to when we talk about it, because we're talking specifically here about the role of the board, and that the board was instructed to do something under gunpoint or did something under whatever, we can't water it down because somebody said it to them. That's just what I'm saying. But Honorable Mahlangu's point, not Mahlangu, Honorable Mokwena's point is that somewhere we must say that their shortcomings was a direct result of the interference of the minister. That's his point. Can we take the other points and we'll come back to you, sir?
Chairperson, I just want to remind myself about what evidence was led before us. And I recall that, that the former board member Kalidas said that the board was never presented with the MOI. They only read about appointment of people into senior positions, and when she made inquiries, she was informed that the DAF was adjusted as a consequence of an amendment to the MOI. I may be wrong, but Chair, I can't remember that we have the evidence before us that the board was actually given an opportunity to object to the irregular amendment of the MOI. So I think we must just be 100% sure what evidence was led. You see, this is where a very thorough list of all the resolutions of the board would have assisted this committee. You know, sort of a list with what happened when. Now, in the absence of that, we can probably go through 500 emails and try to locate when the MOI was amended, etc., and did it serve before the board. But we will have to adjust that. But I would be concerned to say the board had not objected, because the question is, were they given an opportunity to deliberate? From what we have heard, no. But I can I can be wrong.
Chair, the board is not made out of children. It's made out of individuals that are appointed by virtue of their ability to carry certain responsibilities, and they go through a process of serious induction so that they know the laws. Now, if the board fails to carry out those responsibilities because the chair is a super chair or the other, the shareholder is bullying them, they have a responsibility. Now, if we fail to recognize and acknowledge that ourselves as the people who appoint the board would be failing in our duties as we do. So we will deal with that matter when we arrive at 16, but for now, the board has failed. The board has failed. To say one person came, and here are we 13, 14, and we were bullied by one person, and therefore, I think it's just something that, I think, Chair, let's abandon that matter, and because it doesn't hold. It can't hold.
Honorable Mahlangu has sort of covered me, Chair, but you remember the last time I raised the point of how far did the MOI go with regards to the involvement of the board, which will definitely confirm how the board then abdicated their responsibility and give it to the executive. Now, the issue of the minister does not come now here. We only know her involvement is around the issue of MOI. So I think Honorable Mahlangu has sort of put it correctly that we're dealing here with the board itself that has dismally failed to perform its duties. So I think that's a point that I want to put across. But I think we must be very clear, Chair, that the issues that we are dealing with, we now understand at what point the minister came in. Outside, in fact, the operations of the board with the MOI, but the board generally failed to perform its duties. I think that's an underlying point that we're making.
Chair, looking at point 16, it does deal with the MOI, but there's other issues that the Minister was involved in according to the evidence that was presented to us. That was influencing board members to resign as well as the appointment of the COO. So if we're going to change maybe point 16 to the shareholder, the role of the shareholder, that's fine, but it's got to be broader than just the MOI. Okay, thank you, Chair.
No, Chair, I don't know. Like, I'm willing to be defeated on this, but you know, and it is not to negate the fact that the board was dysfunctional and they did not perform their duties. That is a fact that it must be stated. But put that aside. The fact that they only found out in some process that was happening in the executive that they are now no longer allowed to appoint the executive and to do this and so on and so forth, which was on the instruction, if you like, of the new DAF, which is informed by the MOI, which was authored by the Minister. The board is now not able to do their work because of that document. I think to leave that point out would be to do injustice to a full report of what happened to the board. It's not to say that we're putting the blame squarely on the Minister. No. The board failed. They failed in their own way. They did not attend meetings. They did not follow procedures and so on and so forth. But in addition to that, the involvement of the Minister, and not just in the MOI, in the firing of board members, in the appointment of Claudi, and so on and so forth. There are many instances in which the board were influenced or I think their duties were disturbed by the Minister. I think we'd be leaving out an extremely important point, not to mention that in this fiduciary duties paragraph. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I think we are at a stage here where we may be asking a direct question. Did the board do A? And the response is no. Because here we are trying to check if the board did whatever they were expected to do. I want to take a tune from you, Chair. Remember, you said something about job this morning. We must not allow the board to behave like the biblical Adam. When he was asked whether he has eaten from the sacred tree, he said, "It's the wife you have given me." That was not disputing that he has eaten from the sacred tree. So in this instance, the board, in this case, the board did not do its job. It's another issue as to why didn't you do your job. But what is critical here is that they didn't do their job. I want to appeal to Honorable Mokoena, don't be a terrible hunter. When you are running after a hare, it's clear, even if you are seeing a lion, you reduce it to a hare. Let's go with the report as it comes. I think you are in a hurry to reach your destination. It's a ndelendlela. Thanks, Chair.
Yes, Chair, I just wanted to also to echo the same sentiments that let's not be able to separate the work of the board and that of the interference of the Minister. I think the interference of the Minister is covered on number 16. At the moment, let's look at the board and their failings in executing their task in line with the fiduciary duties, and let's look at that at the moment. Then we'll come to the issue of the Minister and his interference with the work of the board.
Happiness? Anything else on page 39? Honorable Chauke?
The issue of the MOI, Chair, have we satisfied ourselves that this MOI was presented to the board? Have we satisfied ourselves that it was ever presented there? Because that's a point that comes in. In fact, it can even support the point at some point, Honorable Mukwena. But if it was submitted, it therefore means that the board, in fact, itself abdicated their responsibility and give it to the executive. So that's why earlier I raised this point that let us just be certain that it was, in fact, submitted to the board.
You know, I'm not sure what we're saying now, honourable members, because we're talking about whether the board, and remember the board is governed by the PFMA to a certain extent and by the Companies Act. And there's nowhere there that they say if you've been lobbied, because everybody gets lobbied, you will be exonerated. Because here we're talking specifically about the board. So even the issue of the MOI, the board knows its responsibilities. It didn't perform. Why it didn't perform is something that can be mitigating from their side. But the fact of the matter from our observations is the board did not perform. And if we want to raise those other things, remember, I think we've got a column that talks about other. We can put those things there. Now we're talking about, is the board fit? Yes. Is the board fit? No. And why not? So can I move on the basis that all external factors to why the board didn't function doesn't belong to whether the board carried out its duties? Can we live with that? Honorable Chauke.
No, that's fine, Chair. I will agree with that position, Chair, that in fact it confirms that the board did not function, because even if the MOI was presented to them and they accepted it or rejected it, it does not come in. So I want to agree with you that we may just leave it and agree that, in fact, the board didn't fail to challenge the MOI. If it was taking the powers of the board, clearly again it failed again to perform its duty. So I agree with you that we may just proceed and leave it as it is.
All right. Honorable Killian.
Can I just be devil's advocate? Why do we say irregular amendment? It's a in that same paragraph, we're saying the board had not objected to the irregular amendment of the MOI. Now, who is then responsible for the irregular amendment? You see, that is what is of a concern. If we don't elaborate a little more, then why have we come to that specific conclusion? We have not heard evidence that the matter was in fact discussed at the board level. You see, that's the only thing that is of a concern. We're making a determination that it was irregular without saying why we say so. We have not established from board members, former board members, it appears that they never discussed the MOI. But I would suggest that we just work in a little reference to say the committee has not been provided with any evidence that the MOI amendment was ever processed through the board. Furthermore, it appears that the board had not objected to the irregular amendment. If we do that, Chair, then we perhaps cover both sides.
Cindy is pointing to a paragraph that we've agreed to. The minister stated that she had consulted the board on the MOI. Go to 812, which we've agreed to. And again, I'm going to the point, honorable members. The question that we're trying to answer here is, did the board perform its functions? That's the question that we're answering, or trying to answer. Now, all those other things, in fact, from where I'm sitting, even whether the MOI was there or it wasn't there, does not detract from the fact that the board didn't perform its functions as it should as the accounting officer. The accounting authority, I beg your pardon. So, is that okay? Thank you. Anything else on 39.9? I beg your pardon, on 39. Nothing? You'll have a second bite, everybody, after you've thought about it tomorrow again, but for now we're not going to reflect any changes. On page 40, Mahlangu, you want to say something? Yes. Okay, hold on. Mahlangu Koza, page 40.
Chair, this statement here on 12.1.8 that says evidence suggests that the company secretary was well organized and efficient. I know that there are individuals that have appeared before the committee to make that statement, but this is our observation. Here it's our observation. Are we saying that the company secretary was well organized and efficient? My answer is no. Evidence has it that she carried certain responsibilities which were not the board responsibilities, which were ministers' responsibilities, did not advise the board appropriately. Indeed, she was well experienced. She's been there for a long time. And most of the things that have happened, because, you know, the King's Code directs us to the responsibilities of the company secretary. It's very explicit. Now, if we were to check what she's been doing, evidence before us, what we observed, her marching out of the committee and with the board and what have you, and what the King Code says, this statement will be, I don't agree with the statement. I request that we remove that statement. We can live with the fact that she served for a long time and was supposed to be highly experienced. But yeah, the fact that she sent SMSs to people to come to a meeting, it's unheard of in terms of the company law and the King's Code, unheard of. And 24-hour notices, all those things were super irregular.
Thank you, Chair. My point is on point 12.1.6. I think the committee had noted that much of the decline was the result of senior managers having ignored. I think ignored is a wrong word there. It should be tolerated, the gradual erosion of good governance. Do you get me, Chair? That's what I'm making there. And secondly, on 12.1.8, I think I think instead there we should be saying the committee notes that the company secretary was well qualified and experienced, notwithstanding the above, then we continue that. But we delete those other things that we are saying there because we are contradicting ourselves. You can't pass a judgment of saying organized and efficient. How do you measure that? But we did note, remember that we did note that she is highly qualified for the position of being company secretary, and she has adequate experience. So whatever things that were happening under her watch, she knew that she was doing something wrong. It's not like she didn't know.
No, thanks, Chair. I just want to make 2 points. The one, the board failed to ratify operational decisions that impacted directly on the public broadcaster's mandate. as financial management and competitiveness. And if I remember correctly, evidence led to the suggestion that they couldn't do this primarily because of the DAF.
I thought you said
Eh?
no, proceed.
And it goes back to the point that I was making. And I want to make it quickly, and then so I can move to the next one. But I'm like I said, I'm willing to be defeated. But I need to make the point. The reason why they could not dispense of their duties, as is mentioned in 12.1.7, is directly because of a derelict, what was that thing? Delegation of whatever, that thing. Of authority framework, yes. It was directly because of that document. Now, to just mention that the board did not dispense of this duty, and not mention part of the reason why they could not, I think is wrong. But like I said, I'm willing to be defeated on that issue. Second thing, 12.1.8. I don't know, like we're no longer discussing evidence. I mean, we're discussing observations, right? So no, forget the evidence. The observation that we made was that the Secretariat was extremely not organized.
Exactly, that's what I said must be deleted.
Or did you say we must?
Agreed on that one. That was Mahlangu's point.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was still thinking about this thing of...
No, Mahlangu's point.
No,
Let me try and defeat you on the first point that you continue going back to. The fact that the board didn't implement the Public Protectors Act has got nothing to do with the DFA. No, listen to it. No. Honorable Chauke, not Chauke, Honorable Mukwena. I think the argument that the rest, and we'll put it in there so that we discuss it. But I really think we shouldn't water down the failure of one because of the actions of somebody else. Not at that high level of management. It can't be correct that my failure will be blamed on somebody else when in going I knew exactly what my terms of reference were. But we will not revisit that point. We're going to put it as true, Cindy, and we'll take a decision tomorrow. I personally disagree, not because I'm protecting anybody, but because I don't think that we must sugar or we must water down the failure of senior members of a parastatal or of a government entity. Honourable Waters?
Chair, thank you. Chair, just... Yeah, so... Right, okay. Just with 12.1.8, I'd like to suggest that we start off with the word despite the former company secretary having served in the position for a long period of time and was highly experienced, former board members, and you carry on. So that's just that. Then on 12...
Before we start, we all agree with taking off the first sentence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then after taking that off, please...
Despite, just the word despite,
Okay.
the former company secretary having served in the position for a long period of time and was highly experienced, which is there, former board members reported, whatever. That's just my suggestion. And then in 12...
Oh, okay.
Then 12.1.5, Chair, we say here,
12.1.5.
yeah, the committee notes evidence by former board members that had both the stakeholder representative and board members been inducted into the roles, we could have averted a lot of these issues. I don't remember anyone suggesting that. I think it was a suggestion from the Honourable Mahlangu that said it should have been a matter of course that it happened and that we should stipulate that. It wasn't, I don't remember any board member suggesting that, but the fact is, a board member being inducted is one thing. The shareholder representative, that's a minister, should take it upon themselves, whichever person it is. I'm not having a go at the current minister. I mean, they're in a very powerful position, and they should take it upon themselves to find out what the responsibilities and what the parameters are of those responsibilities. You know, we shouldn't be dictating that they get inducted. I mean, that's for every single minister. I mean, you know, the ministers after all. So I would like, I mean, for me, I mean, I know it's a observation. So if someone did say it, then we should leave it in. But I'm very wary of the fact that we're suggesting that stakeholders, ministers should be inducted. Thank you.
Before you come in, Honourable Chauke, indeed Professor Kumalo said that. He was at length saying if these things were done. You'll recall that Professor Bongani Kumalo did say that. You probably were not with us, yes. In his input, he really went to length in terms of looking forward. Chauke, and then you finish. Koza?
Chair, I also don't recall him mentioning the shareholder representative. I recall him talking about the board members, but the shareholder representative, he did. Is it? Okay.
No. We'll revisit it. We'll revisit it, but we can go to the transcripts. But I recall him saying that you can't be a minister today, go into something and think that you're the expert of it. Something to that effect. Okay. He did say that, but we'll verify it in the transcripts. Okay. So 12.
I thought we are in the observation section. We are done with the evidence section. Yeah. Now, if we are in the observation section, is it something that we concur with, that we are happy that it should make it into our report? I beg to disagree. I honestly don't think that the shareholder, we should be putting the issue of inducting the shareholder in this thing. The shareholder really, each minister, when you are appointed as the minister, in fact, I remember Ntlanhlanene once said, we must remember when you are appointed as the minister, you are almost on a 2-hour contract, you know, or whatever. That's what he was just highlighting, that you can be appointed today and tomorrow you can be fired or something like that. I honestly do not think that when a position like that where you are appointed, I mean, ministers are moved from one position to the other. Let's leave that to the executive to deal with. I don't think it should be part of our reports. That's my view. I don't know what do other members think.
Other than Honourable Mahlangu, does no, you didn't hear what I said. Other than Honourable Mahlangu, does anybody else feel strongly that we must put the word shareholder off? Will feel strongly if we took out the word shareholder? Who had that? I say I keep. All right. All right. Our observation is that we think the shareholder must be removed from this one, but that the board should be inducted. So we'll take out the word share and shareholder. All right? Good? Good? Yes. Yeah. Cindy is suggesting that we say the committee concurs with the evidence that the induction of board members is whatever. Is that okay? There's an absolute necessity or something like that. Okay. All right. Anything else on page 40? No? Page 40, sir. Other than that issue that you raised, because we'll fix it up tomorrow. That one, yeah.
I don't know. I think it would make logical sense that immediately after the board, that the next subject should then be the role of the minister, of the shareholder, yeah. So that it comes from whatever 16 to here, immediately after the thing.
It's more form than content. We can deal with it whenever we deal with it, but we will put it on the top. I don't think it's a problem. Okay? All right. Page 41, is there any comments? 41, that is 1221 to 1313. Honorable Swartz.
12.2.3, there is a reference there to the insolvency issue which I raised before, and I think we just need to add to that. I have got suggested wording that I've written out and that I'd like to just read, and then I'll give it to Cindy. So it will start where it previously says evidence suggested. This is observations. So we can say the committee noted with concern evidence about the SABC's financial management and sustainability. Full stop. Then we touch on the evidence. You say there is evidence of the possibility of a looming financial crisis. That evidence is there in the SOS submission. In addition, there's reference to material uncertainty on the going concern assumptions in the preparation of the most recent financial statements. We just make reference to that. We're not quoting it. And then we go back to here. In addition, in this regard further, the funding model is of concern as it is there, particularly in light of the SABC's man's observations. And then in recommendations, we say someone must urgently look, the interim board must urgently look at the financial sustainability. Sure. Okay. Let's have a look at it.
Honorable Killian.
Chairperson, I would like to recommend at paragraph 12.2.1 that we just there where we're talking regardless of its commercial activities, the SABC remains a public entity funded from the public purse and also in terms of the PFMA accountable to Parliament. As an institution listed in the schedule, I think they must be acutely aware that they are accountable to Parliament, irrespective if we are giving them R1 or 5 million rand. I think we must just make them accountable to Parliament. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, on 12.21, I think we need to be specific, and when we talk about the former board chairperson, and so I was speaking about Professor Maguve, I think we need to be explicit and say Professor Maguve.
All right. Anything else on page 41? Just again from a Honorable Swartz, I'm looking at you. If you look at the very last line, according to Ms. Gelderneys's testimony, I know you were always berating me and saying it's not testimony, it's evidence. 41 at the bottom. You kept on saying that this word testimony, should we change it to evidence? Because that's what you were saying in the past. You've got that, Cindy? Yeah? 41. 1313. Mrs. Gelderneys's testimony. They think we should say Mrs. Gelderneys's evidence. All right? You got that? Anything else on page 41? No. Thank you very much. On page 42, any comments? (1315) Ms. Khoza, 1411 Mr. Matlangu, Dr. Koza and Ms. Matlangu, are we, because those were inputs that we received, you might not have had sight of them. Anybody wants to comment on the whole page, but I'm saying those are specific ones that you would not have had sight of.
Yeah, I'm not too hard on this, but if we're going to mention multi-choice, did we page 41
41.
under 13? Yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying, if we're going to mention suspicious transactions and we mention multi-choice alone, should we not make reflections on the other ones?
Like which ones?
Sabelo, Xabisa, and but under observations, because yeah.
Did we not cover them anyway?
This, no, they're covered in the evidence. Yeah, we're not making observations about Sabelo, Xabisa, vision view, and it's a lot of money, those things.
Suggesting, sir, where do we put it in?
I'm suggesting that even if we put a paragraph,
A new paragraph.
yeah, a paragraph on the other ones,
Will you start crafting that for us?
no problem.
Honorable Koza?
No, Chair, I was just cautioning that we are dealing with specifically with multi-choice here. Probably let's have maybe either we can start with multi-choice and at the end of that multi-choice stuff, we then put a new paragraph so that it flows. You have a different heading. Thank you. Yeah.
Under multi-choice, Chair, I'm not sure that we have to note that there are matters that are currently before court, especially the issues of encryption, noted during the presentation evidence under the said a person. I'm saying that we have to note it somewhere in the line that because this matter is not finalized, it's currently under, under the court currently that dealing with it. So I thought maybe we should have a line that, in fact, reflect that we have looked at it to an extent that we have acknowledged the matter is before the court, we could not finalize it. Or we have to have a line that speaks generally about the issue of encryption, because it's one of the issues, in fact, that led to a paging of a number of officials there.
Suggestion that we put in a line observing that this matter is still with the courts.
Chair, 13.1.4 does speak about the encryption. I'm not sure if Honorable Chauke is okay with the way it's covered there, or he would want to beef up that point, 13.1.4.
No. The point that we're arguing is that we must note that this matter is before the court. That's the point that he's making.
About encryption.
No, he was saying it's part of it. But the fundamental point is that it's before the courts.
Okay.
Can we put a sentence to that effect? Yeah. Is it indeed before the courts? We'll check if it's indeed before the courts. You suggesting it's there?
Yes, no, that's what was reported during the hearing.
No, but this is not reported. This is
No,
now
I'm
our
saying that
observation.
this what was presented during the.
Can you just verify that for us?
Yes.
Because we don't want to. No, it's fine if somebody reported it. All we're suggesting is that when we put that line in, let's be sure that that we're comfortable with that line. All right. It is. We are informed that it is, so it's fine. We'll put that line that says.
Why?
Put your mic off. We'll put the line in that says the committee is aware or observes that this matter is before the courts. We'll put that line in. I don't think it's a problem. Then we'll put Honorable Mukwena the points that you're talking about and all the others that you want us to put. You'll just craft that for us. Thank you. Anything else on page 41? Page 42? (1411) is Mahlangu as contribution, so members must look at that. Anything on 41 or 42? You want to say something? Yes. Waters and Insing.
Chair, on 1422, to do with the SSA, where we say that the communication had been intercepted, and this irregular use of state resources is a concern, particularly because, the first testimony that the SSA had been monitoring and intercepting communication between employees is noted with concern. I mean, I think we need to be a bit stronger there. It's a gross violation of people's rights, and also an assault on freedom of speech and the press, etc. And so I would like to, I was thinking, I don't know. So if anyone can come up, I don't know, I'm English speaking, but is noted with serious concern, because it really is. It's a real violation of people's rights.
Okay, what's serious to that one? Anybody?
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Just on human resources, I think we're focusing on Mr. Motsoneng. What about, I think we also had evidence that there were other members of people that were irregularly appointed, allegedly fired, and things like that. Wasn't that an observation, purged observation of the committee? Because we need the new board or whoever, the interim board, to deal with those matters and investigate all this purging and possible irregular employment and things like that.
Yes,
Could be somewhere else, but
I think we've got that in our recommendation somewhere. So you want to
It's an
suggest that
observation.
all, I think this one we were just being specific. And we agree that it was more than just one individual. Because I think that was our observation, that there were appointments that were done outside of the norm. You want to help us there, ma'am? Yes.
Chairperson, I would suggest that we change the heading then, or alternatively we can put in a separate heading to say irregular dismissals and appointments, and then just have a one-liner. The committee also notes with concern, very serious concern, that members of staff were appointed and dismissed without following due process.
Yeah, no. But that is human resources matters. Why another heading? We can just put it as 1412, the new 1412 type of thing. Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, on 1411, with regards to the appointment of Mr. Motsoneng, we say there in the first line he did not meet the most basic criteria, but isn't that he did not meet the most basic qualification, or didn't have the most basic qualification? I think that's what we're trying to say, is it not? So we should say qualification rather than criteria, I would suggest. And we need to also mention that they also ignored the public protector report in appointing him. Just insert, to put it in there. We have to say that. I mean, they were aware of it and they ignored it. Yeah.
You'll talk to that when you go through there, just to help us. But we are saying qualification, and then we must add something that says that the PP's report was not considered, or whatever the case might be. Mr. Singh, Mr. Kubisa, and Dr. Koza?
Yeah, on that point, what about the courts? The court's pronouncement on him. We observe what the courts have pronounced in terms of his appointment. Findings by the court. It was a PP and the courts.
Yeah, no, Chair, I agree with the Honourable Waters, but except the fact that qualifications are what you should have, and the criteria are what you should meet. Who did not have the relevant qualifications? You did not have them. You must have qualifications and you must meet the criteria.
I think I'll have to agree with my learned friend next to me. You know, Chair,
Hold on, before you go there. Mr. Waters and everybody else, the table is suggesting that criteria would include qualifications and all those things. That's what she's suggesting. But if you don't agree, then you won't fall on your sword for it. It helps us so that we sleep earlier tonight. Dr. Koza.
Chair, first of all, I agree with the inclusion of an extract that will be reflecting on the PP report and the courts. And I also think that criteria is more appropriate than qualification. And the reason being that the point we're making is that you can't move somebody straight from public stakeholder management to a very highly technical field such as, you know, in operations, to operations, because those two roles were not in sync, basically. They're too different.
So, Singer, I'm assuming that you're preparing something for us that will include the public protector or something like that on that one? Or Cindy, have you got it covered? Okay, Cindy says she's got it covered. We'll argue it. We'll argue it tomorrow when we see the proper report. Anything else on page 42? No? Page 43.
Chair, to do with the role of the shareholders representative, 1611.
Yes, sir.
I think we need to split that up a bit. The minister's role in the removal of non-executive members, either through dismissal or resignation, is noted with concern. I think that should be the one point, and then we should because we need to emphasise it, in my view.
That's right.
And then that the board may have been pressurised to appoint Mr. What's the name, but by whom? So we must say pressurised by the minister.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at what we said in the previous document, there were allegations that the minister was actively involved in the appointment of the COO, disregarding standard HR procedure as reflected in the board minutes provided. So the board minutes states that the minister was actively involved, right? If I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Shabalala said that she and the minister had a meeting beforehand to discuss the filling of the COO position. She did deny that they discussed any names, but then coincidentally, at the very next board meeting a few days later, Mr. Motsaneng's name was pushed, you know. So it tells you that they did talk about it in their meeting. So I would like to say that the board, you know, was, not may have been, for me, it's quite clear that there were allegations that the minister was pressurizing the board to appoint Mr. Motsaneng in the COO position. And we need to state that up front and quite clearly. And then obviously, in both instances, the minister appears to have acted in contravention of the Broadcasting Act, the Executive Code of Ethics, the Privileges Act, Powers and Privileges Act, and the Constitution, which should come first, by the way, being the most important law of the land. Then, as far as the MOI is concerned, there...
Hold on.
Okay.
Let's just deal with that one first, yeah. Okay. 1461, what Mr. Waters is suggesting is that we be specific when we say the board might have been pressurized. He was saying we put by who, and then the second part we say in contravention of the Constitution and all those type of things. Those are the proposals. Killian?
Can Mr. Waters perhaps...
Killian, on this point, eh?
Yes.
Killian, Singh, and then Koza.
Chairperson, I, from my side, I think he's correct that he therefore suggests that we have a separate point, 16.1.2, that the committee also notes that the board may have been pressurized to appoint by the minister to appoint the Motswaneng in the COO position. I think we have the minutes of the July 7 meeting and how events unfolded from the 2nd of July to the 7th. Is it the 7th? Yeah, 2nd of July. Chair, if Mr. Waters can perhaps just explain, what does he mean if he says they've acted in contravention of the Constitution, the Broadcasting Act, the Executive Code of Ethics, and the Privileges Act? Can he perhaps be more specific in terms of which sections, and not just have a general sort of comment with regards to the pieces of legislation, so that we have a better understanding of what is he referring to? Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Singh.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to follow up on Honourable Killian. I think the observation is drawn. You see, in our previous report, when we spoke about disregarding procedures, we referred to the board minutes. So our observation is drawn from board minutes dated so and so, so and so, so and so. So that clarifies this. Why are we making this observation? Because even the board minutes testify to that. But then the whole issue which we discussed at length of conflicting testimony and people not agreeing with what the minister said, isn't that an observation that comes in here? We may have it early on, but it's an observation. We note that what the minister said was not corroborated by other witnesses.
We'll come back to you. Are you done, Honourable Singh? Yeah. Okay. Honourable Swart. Not beg your pardon, Waters.
Chair, just to answer Honourable Killian's question, we did, when we discussed this in the meeting last week, where are we now? What day are we? Or maybe Friday, maybe earlier this week. I did stipulate the particular sections, but I can go through them again. So, for example, the Constitution is section 96, B, where it says conduct of cabinet members and deputy ministers. B, act in a way that is inconsistent with the office. And C, uses their position or any information entrusted to them to enrich themselves or improperly benefit any other person, which in my view she did for Mr. Motswaneng. That's a contravention of the Constitution. Then in addition to the Executive Ethics Code, if you look at 2.1b, where it's, members of the executive must, to the satisfaction of the President or the Premier, as the case may be, fulfill all the obligations imposed by them by the Constitution and the law, and act in good faith in the best interest of good governance, which, in my view, she did not do. In addition, D, act in all respects in a manner that is consistent with the integrity of their office or the government. Again, she did not do. And then there's powers and privileges. Sorry, let me just get there. Where are we? Here. No, this powers and privileges. Sorry. 17E. Whether or not during examination under Section 15 willfully furnishes a House or committee with information or makes a statement before it which is false or misleading, commits an offence and is liable to a fine or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years, or to both the fine and imprisonment. So she transgressed that as well. So I think we need to state categorically what sections she's transgressed. So we've got that before we can make our findings.
Honourable Waters, can I, if you go to page 48, it talks about the role of the shareholder specifically. Here we're talking about the role of the shareholder in the removal. If you look at page 48, which is I think point 24, shouldn't those things go under 24? Well, oh, this is observations. This is observations. Oh, okay. Is it? Oh, okay. No. It's fine. It's fine.
This is to do with the COO position.
It's fine. It's fine. All right. No. I withdraw my one. Somebody still wants to talk to this one. We are dealing with, remember 16.11, Honorable Waters is saying we must be specific, or we must add the word the Constitution, not the word, but we must refer to the Constitution over and above the ones that are already there. Yeah, start with the Constitution. I'm saying that's the first point. The second point, he's saying on top we must say the minister influence. That's the one we were discussing now. And he had another one. When we're done with this one, Waters, we'll come back to you for the next one. Khoza and oh, you wanted to speak? Khoza, not Khoza, Van Dam, Killian, and Chauke. And then we will move on.
Yeah,
On 16.11.
I agree with that inclusion of what Waters is recommending. However, I still think that we need to change the wording there. You know, where it says that the board may have been pressurized. I think we may have to say evidence suggested the board was covertly or overtly pressurized to appoint Mr. Motswaneng in the COO position, because it was both covert and also overt, depending on where you stood, according to the evidence.
That's version 2.
Thanks, Chair. I agree with Honourable Khoza. And just to bolster Honourable Waters' points, I mean, I think we've been, all through the report, we've been quite explicit about mentioning legislation and what duties legislation imposes on specific people. I think that must be carried through in the recommendations. So when we make our decisions, we don't just make our decisions in a vacuum. We make our decisions based on specific law, because also we're legislators. We are the people who make these laws. So when we make our decisions, we need to be very clear about saying, here's what the law says. You did X, the law says X, you did Y, and Z, you violated the legislation like that. So I think it's very important. We are very explicit there about which section of the Constitution she violated, which section of the Executive Ethics Act, and which section of the Powers and Privileges Act. And then we also mention in recommendations what the consequences are for violating those sections. Thanks, Chair.
Let me just understand. I thought we were just going to put the word Constitution. You want to put Constitution and Section 1 and Powers and Privileges and Section 8. That's what you're suggesting.
Yes,
That's
I'm
fine.
saying,
That's
yeah.
fine. You'll give us that information. Then I don't think you've got it already. Oh, she's got it there already. Honourable Killian and then Chauke.
Yes, Chair. Chairperson, I, by the way, support what Honourable Dr. Khoza said. I just want to say that we must just be very mindful of making some comments about the shareholders' role vis-à-vis the functioning or the effective functioning of the board and its dysfunctionality, etc. But we must remain truthful to our mandate, our terms of reference. And by making such a statement, the only word that saves us, I think, is appears to. Because we almost make a final conclusion that she is in contravention of X, Y, and Z. And we have not really investigated that. We didn't call her back to say, but X, Y, and Z was stated. Is it correct for us to come to that conclusion? Is it really relevant for what we have been requested to investigate? I'm just, again, I'm the devil's advocate to say we could express a concern that the minister might have acted in contravention of X, Y, and Z, or the committee expresses a concern that the minister might have acted in contravention of X, Y, and Z. But I don't think we can come to a determination. And that is, I just want to put that on the table as well.
No, Chair, I want to agree with the Honorable Killian. The base in which we found the transgression of the minister, it's informed by the meeting of the July 7, which forms the base of our information. Other than that, I think we now dealing with the Saudi case at court now. And I think that what we should do, we should sort of base ourselves around information presented before us. And we are not defending anything. I think the fact is that we have identified where the involvement of the minister is. But I think the meeting of July 7 tells us her role and what has happened there. So therefore, I think the observation will have to be informed around that line, Chair, to a point that it leads us to a number of things, in fact, that happened. If you'll recall, if we had to go into the evidence, you'll recall that, and informed by the minutes again, you'll recall that when the board took a decision, and that's the information that is before us, when the board took a decision to appoint, the minister then appeared to congratulate the board. So he was not part of that meeting in the board when that happens, right? Now, the following day is then when the person then is appointed. So I'm saying that let us use the basis of the information we have. Obviously, those transgression, either it's constitutional or what, we can just list them, but let us not divert much, Chair, from the information that is presented before the committee. Because if we are to follow that point that is raised by Honorable Kalyan, definitely, you'll definitely need to do, you'll definitely need to do further investigation and call the minister to provide such information. So I thought that we should use the base of our engagement and information before the committee. Thanks, Chair.
Let me, yeah, everybody wants to speak. Before you speak, let me just try again and focus. 16.1 talks about removal and appointment of board members. Appointment of Mr. Motsweng we dealt with in 14.1. Appointment of the CEO, yes. 14.1. That's where we dealt with it. Removal and appointment of board members.
And further on the CEO position.
Yes, no, the point that I'm making is we either change the heading, but I'm saying the heading as it stands talks about appointment and removal of the board. Because we've got another one that says specifically the appointment of the COO, where we can make reference to the minutes of January, of July or something like that, yeah. I'm just saying, I'm asking the question, why do we have it in both places? Do you hear what I'm saying? All right, so as you talk to it, because that's the point that we're talking to, I'm just asking is 16.1 not duplication of, to a certain extent, of course, the second part of it, not duplication of 14.1.1. As you speak, answer that question as well. Everybody wants to speak on this one? Okay, people are saying I've noted them. Let's start there. We'll start Koza, we'll come to Kubisi. You want to talk, Mr. Swartz? You want to talk, and then you'll be the next one, and we'll go down this way.
Chair, I wanted to say, notwithstanding the fact that we belong to different ideological orientations, and obviously there might be there might be an assumption that probably those that are from the ruling party are going to try and be soft or whatever. I'm just trying to appeal to us to be objective in the way we are crafting our observations. Remember, we are in inquisitorial. This is an inquisitorial process. Two, this is not a disciplinary hearing. And therefore, it will be, I don't think, where I am seated, I am not a legal guru like Honorable Swart, but I think maybe the choice of words that we need to be using, we might have to say the minister may have contravened section what of the Constitution. We can't be so definite about it because remember we are going to be tabling this thing to Parliament. Whatever report that we have, we're going to be tabling it to Parliament, and Parliament will have to apply its mind, and then Parliament will then have to take, you know, the appropriate action or channel our recommendations, should they approve them, to the relevant authorities that can decide on what sort of sanction will be appropriate, that will investigate thoroughly and arrive at a definite conclusion. And so I'm just appealing to my colleagues because we are together here. Actually, as a ruling party, it's actually a very important process for us because we need to clean this mess that is happening. So people must not think that we are defending anything. We are not. We are just saying let's be objective as this structure and stick to our terms of reference.
Okay. I've noted everybody here. I'm just trying to understand where we are now. The debate we're having now is the wording. The minister may have pressurized the board, or the minister... Say again?
Sorry, I don't mean to, it says appears to have acted in contravention.
Correct. That's what I'm.
It doesn't mean she has.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. Why are we debating this matter? Because. Yeah, I thought the argument was we must not be prescriptive because we didn't go through a disciplinary hearing, and it says here may have appeared or something to that effect. Yes. So does that then not defeat or makes the argument?
But this is a separate issue.
I know that, but I'm saying on this one of Mr. Waters.
Because the wording appears to be.
Chairperson, the word appears does not suggest that the minister did it.
Yes.
You can use might have, may have. It means same thing.
All right. Let's go on this matter, Killian.
Now you were coming down here.
Person.
No, just on this one, because you're saying it's done. She seems to not think that it's done. You want to talk to the same point?
No, I mean the word is there. But anyway, let's.
Okay, Chairperson, I have said that appears can possibly save us. But the second point that I just wanted to make is I do not believe that we should be very specific about the sections in this clause, because whereas we have investigated the matters before us in terms of the Broadcasting Act, etc., because we had to determine whether the board was functional, etc., we went into quite a lot of detail. But for instance, I just want to say that I'm concerned about the inclusion of the Privileges Act. The minister, like all members of parliament, are protected in terms of Section 58 of the Constitution to have privilege in Parliament. By including that, remember all other witnesses are sworn in to have that protection. If we include that and we say that she contravened the Privileges Act, on what basis are we making that determination? So I would like to suggest that we do not include that we just refer to she appears to have acted in contravention of the Broadcasting Act and the Executive Ethics Code. And if we do that, then we do not come to a final determination about the Privileges Act, because as I say, it conflicts with the immunity granted to her in terms of Section 58 of the Constitution.
On this point, because there's other points, on this point, can we agree that we put both versions on it and argue it tomorrow? Because we want to resolve it now, and Mr. Swartz and them have got other points. There's a version that says, let's be specific, the Constitution and everything else. There's a version that says, don't use the privileges because she's protected under the Constitution or by virtue of being an MP. Can we leave those two and finalize it tomorrow?
Can we get our legal advisors?
Exactly. So on a new matter, because on this one, I think this is a new matter. We're coming down. Honorable Swartz, then Waters, and then Van Dam.
purely on the issue of the evidence that is before us on that issue as to the minister's involvement, where there is a view that it only related to that meeting, but Krish Naidu states it in terms. He says aided and abetted by the Honourable Minister. So we've got evidence there, but it doesn't make it that you can say is guilty of. You still got to say the process appears, yes, but there is a lot of evidence around the minister's involvement. That's the only point I wanted to make.
Has been implicated.
Yeah, thank you. Chair, if you look at our terms of reference on page 2 of the document we're dealing with, the second last line says, you know, our ability to discharge its duties, and the terms of reference are limited to considering the human resources related matters such as governance structures, appointments of executives, and the termination of services of the affected executives. So there we're talking about the appointment of the COO, etc., and how other people with contracts were terminated. So clearly that is in our scope, and we have every right to make recommendations on that. The last point is decision-making processes of the board. Now, if the board has been intimidated where members have been forced to resign by a minister, then that clearly impacts on the decision-making processes of that board. So clearly, we well within our right to hold the minister to account here. That's the first thing I want to make. Chair, just on the Powers and Privileges Act, the fact is we're saying seems to have, right? We're not saying she has, similarly to the Constitution or the Executive Ethics Code or the Broadcasting Act. We're saying seems to have. So putting it in, it's not going to hurt it. It's not going to hurt us. And you know, the powers that be that will investigate the minister's actions will determine if she has indeed violated the Privileges and Powers and Privileges Act. So that's that. And that on this particular point, Chair, that's all I want to. Point you mentioned: are we not duplicating issues in paragraph 14, whatever? But that the appointment of the COO in that paragraph pertains only to the board, not to the minister. And they both have a role to play. Yes, the board must be held accountable. I agree with that. But so must the minister. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Partly covered by Honourable Waters. I mean, if you're going to look at the actions of the board in causing the current crisis, there's no way you can look at that without looking at the role of the minister, the person who reports to us as Parliament about an entity that's under her responsibility. So we cannot say we're only going to look at the board and not look at the actions of the minister. And then I just want to correct Honourable Killian. The Powers and Privileges Act does apply to the minister if she's misled Parliament. Section 13 says a member is guilty of contempt of Parliament if the member, Section B, commits an act mentioned in Section 17(1)(a), B, C, D, etc. Now, Section 17(e) speaks to about that a member is guilty of misleading Parliament whether or not during examination willfully furnishes a house or committee with information or makes a statement before it which is false or misleading, commits an offence and is liable to a fine or imprisonment, etc. So that applies to members of Parliament who mislead a committee or provide information that's false. How did she mislead us? She came here and she said she doesn't know anything. She was not involved with anything. At the SABC is not her job. She doesn't know anything. What are we talking about? When the facts presented to us by several witnesses point to the fact that she overstepped her constitutional duty by making sure, by pressurizing the board to appoint Mr. Motsoneng, she contravened the Constitution. And she told us she didn't do that. She said that she hadn't signed the MOI. We had an MOI that she did sign. So those are just two examples of how she misled Parliament and contravened the Powers and Privileges Act, which does apply to her.
Now, honourable members, you guys are taking us to and fro. I thought we had dealt with this matter that said may appeared and Honourable Waters said somebody will investigate it going forward. Now, I've allowed you to speak for speaking's sake, but I'm going to stop anybody that speaks on this matter because this thing is going forward. We are not going to resolve it. We've agreed that in our observations we say may have. So I don't want any more discussions on this matter. All right. Anything else on page 43? Honorable Chauke. Oh, no, everybody else on, no, let me do it this way. Everybody else wanted to speak, but if you were going to speak on this point, I'm going to rule you out of order.
Okay.
If you're going to speak on this one, I'm going to rule you out of order. The one that we've just spoken, because we've taken a decision. Yeah, so everybody. So we'll go here and we'll end with you, Honorable Mukwena. Baba.
I was not going to talk about it, Chair. My voice is bad today, Chair. So, no, I thought maybe we should have a new point under the removal and appointment of board members. Evidence before us, Chair, suggests that the role of Parliament, in fact, was mentioned many times, and I'm not sure that we'll want to leave it outside. For this reason, that in the appointment of the COO, evidence before us suggests that Parliament has pressurized the then board to appoint, if you remember evidence from Chabalala. Secondly, Chair, the issue of removal of board members. Yep. Evidence suggests that it was submitted to Parliament that certain members were removed and Parliament did not do anything. Yes. And I thought that we should sort of bring these points forward around issues of removal and appointment of members of the board.
While we're discussing the minister, and I'm raising this because I.
Ministers on another page. Remember you said we'll bring it forward later on. But make your point.
Role of the oh.
Yeah. Role of shareholders
is on the other side. Okay, that's fine. The other 2 points are ready for 13 point whatever.
Yes, on section 1621, Chair. Amendment of the MOI. So it says the regular amendment of the MOI we should state in contravention of the Broadcasting Act, as well as the proposed amendments to the Broadcasting Act, demonstrate efforts to concentrate power in the ministry, right, by curtailing and removing the powers of both the board and as the accounting officer and Parliament's role in the appointment of non-executive board members. If you look at the previous document that we had, 1332, that's the one we're dealing with on Tuesday, Tuesday. You'll see the second sentence or the third line says the MOI also gives the minister undue access to the SABC, thereby compromising the independence of the institution. I think that needs to be put in, Chair, that we are stressing that the MOI allowed the minister undue influence within the SABC. And that's my proposal. I don't think it's covered in the current clause.
All right. Yes, Honourable Kubis.
Legislation, if can put in that word, rather than saying specific to the SABC, supersedes.
It can't supersede Constitution,
It can't supersede Constitution. Okay.
which is legislation.
Yeah, no. My learned friend next to me says there's a Constitution. Mind the fact that there is a Constitution as well. I wanted to bring in the word supersedes.
The committee reiterates the Broadcasting Act.
I wanted to.
That's the one we're talking to.
Yeah, I'm talking to the first sentence. The committee reiterates the Broadcasting Act supersedes
Supersedes what?
any piece of legislation,
And is undoubtedly specific to whatever.
and that is specific to the SABC. I get the point from where you come from, that if you say primary law, you've already said supersedes.
Just to add 16.2.1, the last line, Parliament's role in the appointment and removal of non-executive board members.
Yeah, no, Chair, I was stopped unfairly.
Sorry.
No, I wanted to add that, and perhaps it's neither 16.2.1 or 2.2, that it's maybe 16.3, that we need to note that the minister failed to, or the shareholder rather, let me not say the minister, the shareholder failed to rein in an obvious rebellion from the SABC so-called board at the time, when they went public and said that they're not going to be accountable to Parliament. And I'm saying this because I directly asked her about that issue, and she waffled and couldn't say anything about that. And I think it goes directly to her role as the shareholder. She's not able to just to rein in the SABC to account to Parliament. It's a serious omission of her duties.
I thought we agreed, Baba, that on page 48 we'll cover it there, because 48 talks specifically about the role of the shareholder. Or are you?
Okay, so your interpretation was that we're going to start a whole new thing on page 48?
No, if you look at page 48 now. Oh, yes, you keep on saying recommendations. Okay, no, it's fine. I keep on jumping there. I beg your pardon. All right. Cindy saying we can add it 17.1.1. As 16.24. Oh, you're saying we must put it at 16.24 or 17.1.1. So you want 16.24 as a new one?
No, 16.3.
He wants it under 16. Not a special heading, just a one-liner. You'll draft that liner?
I can do it, yeah.
Okay. All right. And you'll get it to us, you'll get the reports, we'll discuss all these things tomorrow. You want to talk to that one, sir? Yes, Conrad Chauke.
I wanted to say, Chair, that this point, in fact, falls around the issue of accountability as much as we are dealing with the issue of the role of the shareholder. But we need to always emphasize a point around the role of Parliament again. Because if Parliament calls upon a board and the board defied to come to Parliament, we cannot blame it to the minister and say the minister failed to bring the board to Parliament. Parliament must exercise its powers. Now, we have exercised the powers, issuing summons and all of that. So I think we must distinguish between the two, Chair. We must be very clear. If we deal with the issue of the minister, we deal with the minister. If we deal with Parliament, so I'm saying that it must go concurrent. It can be the minister, it must be Parliament, so that we know that which body, in fact, that is responsible for making sure that there's accountability at the end of the day. So I'm saying we must never separate and only focus on the shareholder. We must even be able to deal with Parliament, because that has been identified as a weakness again. And that weakness need to be exposed. It need to come forward as much as we expose the weakness of the minister, so that it's not one-sided, our report. So I thought that I should put this thing saying that in whatever that we have made mention of around issues of parliament, that must come very strong too. We can't just leave it aside and just focus on the shareholder. It's just going to make our position very weak, as if we are targeting a particular shareholder rather than dealing with the issues of accountability.
We will put it in as you've suggested. I'm sure we'll put it in when we get to parliamentary oversight on the next page. And we will deliberate and finalize it tomorrow. I'm saying, is that fair? All right. That is. But please don't get into dialogue on this matter.
No.
Okay.
I'm done with that.
Yes. On 43.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I wanted to just do the insertions of the.
We'll get there now. Do you want to talk on 43? Yes. Then you'll do the insertion, sir.
Sorry, Chair. Thank you very much. I want to talk on 1623 to do with the Principal Act and the superseding of the Broadcasting Act over the Companies Act. Chair, if you look at the previous document that we dealt with, 1331, I think there's a very strong sentence there. It says, it is evident that the public, well, it should just be the Broadcasting Act, and the Companies Act of 2008 have been used interchangeably to suit the desired outcomes of the executive authority. It's a very powerful statement, and they were used interchangeably. So when it suited people to use the Broadcasting Act, they did, and when they wanted to use it would suit them to use the Companies Act, they did so. And it created a lot of confusion, as we all know. So I think that's got to come into 16.2.3, Chair. I would suggest that the first line, once we get that, because the Prof suggested that we put in the word supersedes. Oh, did you? Sorry, Prof. But at the end of that sentence, we then insert, it is evident that that these two acts were used interchangeably. I think it just gives it more strength. Yeah.
At the very end.
No. Before the committee. I would say, yeah. No, sorry, Chair. I think it just puts things into perspective for people when they're reading the report.
Are we together? Yeah. All right. 43 we're done with. Can we ask you to read slowly your proposals, Honourable Mokoena? And where were we discussing those things? Which points?
Thanks, Chair. No, what I've just done is I've sent it to Cindy, and then she can make the changes according to what we agree on here. Yeah, I've just sent it an email now.
Which ones are you talking to?
So it's 13. It's 13. Just after 13.1.5.
13.1.5.
Yes.
Yes. That was the one-liner you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's not a one-liner. It's
no, but I'm saying it was about the other people. Yes, yeah. Okay.
So 13 point, it would then follow that 13.2 be on Sabelo Kabisa.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's right. Fine. As long as we know what you're talking about, that's fine.
Yeah, and then, so the thing, it says the committee is satisfied with the evidence that there have been that there has been a level of irregularity in the appointment of Sabelo Kabisa, given that the SABC was well equipped to provide the services procured to the company. That there's also concern around the evidence that the appointment of the company was under suspicious circumstances in which procurement procedures may have been circumvented. And then 13.3, subheading Vision View, reads as follows, that the committee notes its concern with the Vision View agreement given the cost of 42 million rands attached to it. Notwithstanding the lack of evidence to the contrary, the committee notes that the approval of the transaction was effected after the agreement was signed, and that suggests that there may have been more than meets the eye, or something, yeah. Evidence was also presented to the committee that the SABC had in 2013 outlined a plan to beef up equipment of the SABC through internal capacity, and that plan was sabotaged to make way for the Vision View procurement. It holds water then that the SABC appears to have lost 42 million rands unnecessarily.
No? We will put that in and we'll discuss it. You'll get
And
the
then we'll
report
discuss it, yeah.
overnight.
Okay.
Yeah, you look at it. It's very difficult for us to follow now. But the points he was making is that he's adding two more. It's not just multi-choice. That's the point. We'll get the document and we'll argue it tomorrow. Can we move to page 44 up to point 19? Page 44 up to point 19. Is there anybody?
Clause 19. The committee notes the extent to which Parliament had relinquished its constitutional duty to hold the executive and consecutive SABC boards to account. This has rendered Parliament complicit in the gradual decline of good governance, accountability and commitment to public broadcasting at the SABC. Now I want the point I was making earlier. It is not the whole of Parliament. I do not think we can give Parliament a collective responsibility in this regard. Members of the opposition repeatedly raised issues about the SABC. We, from the Democratic Alliance side, we've been to court for 2 years on SABC matters. My predecessor on the Communications Committee, Mr. Gavin Davis, banged his head against the wall trying to have the SABC board held accountable. He was blocked by the majority members of that committee. I myself, as a member of the Communications Committee, also banged my head against the wall trying to make sure that the SABC is held accountable. So if we're going to be factual and honest, we must say the majority members of Parliament failed on their constitutional duties. I do not think it is fair to tar everyone with the same brush.
We're not going to debate whether it's right or wrong. That is one proposal. Put the other proposal on the table, and we will debate them tomorrow. Because I don't want us to be saying she's right or wrong now, because it takes us. There's a view that says Ma'am Van Dam is uncomfortable of painting everybody with the same brush. Any other views, and we'll put them all down. Ma'am Koza, Dr. Koza, and then Mokoena, and then Singh.
Chair, I don't think the facts that Honorable Van Dam is putting forward are in dispute. I don't think we can dispute them. However, Chair, we must remember that we are writing this report as this ad hoc committee that is making an observation that dynamics, we don't sit in the committee or the Communications Committee. She sits in that committee. As far as we are concerned as this ad hoc committee, notwithstanding the fact that Van Dam may be privy to some of the details that as this committee we don't have, as far as we are concerned, we are going to be putting this as that portfolio committee that might have failed. When this report is debated, Honorable Van Dam, it is within her rights that she can raise whatever issues of her concerns and of actually putting the facts straight. But she must not pull us, the whole committee, into the portfolio committee of communications. We are not members of the portfolio committee of communications.
No, Chair,
Get to you. Before we get to you, so your proposal is that it stays as it is. Koza.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. So we've got. In other words, it's this version.
We may just say, probably state that the portfolio committee on communications, as opposed to saying,
Parliament. We'll say the portfolio committee, okay? So that's one version. Van Dam is the second version that she's put now that wants it specific. Honorable Mokoena and then Honorable Singh. Just on this point, eh?
No, Chair, I think there's a difference between a political argument and a factual committee argument. And I think and I speak as a member of the opposition as well, who may have had a member in that committee, and the decision that was taken, as per what we heard, we have not heard evidence from the committee members. We have not heard, and we've got 2 committee members here. They have not given us evidence, so we cannot make a deliberate statement like that when we don't have the facts. I think the opportunity for myself as a member of the EFF, for the DA, and anybody else who may have opposed the position in the committee must then make that point politically in Parliament, in National Assembly. This is not the space. I think we must not make the mistake of making political arguments here.
Yeah, Chairperson, this is quite a damning statement, even if I may say so. And even if we change it from Parliament to Portfolio Committee, it's quite a reflection on the Portfolio Committee, where we're saying they had relinquished their constitutional duty. Now, they may have, right? But they didn't had, and this has rendered Parliament complicit. Now, here's complicity here, that this Portfolio Committee as well has let all of us down. It's also made, this is conjecture. This is not based on evidence and facts, whether it was from the majority party members or the opposition party. So I think we need to recraft that. But I'll come back to point 18 when we dealt with this point.
No, I think we agree with the sentiment.
I think we need to step up to the plate and accept responsibility. The SABC 8 said, you, Parliament, have let us down. And so, Chair, I think we need to formulate, it needs to stay in. We can find it more nuanced, but we have. And whoever, we can say Parliament, in particular the Portfolio Committee, but it's a very broad statement, and I think the public will say, but what, we need to just make that point, and it needs to remain. How we craft it, we can work together. But I feel very strongly that as Parliament, we need to step up to the plate and say, yes, there's an acceptance of responsibility here. We may have neglected. We can find the right wording, but I think it's an important statement to be made.
I think we're all in agreement. Nobody said it must come out. It was the actual wordsmith of it. Now, somebody must do that for us. And we're not going to debate it because there's agreement. We'll. Oh, okay. Say yes. Yes, no, you may. No, it's your turn. After Singh, we're on the line. Can we take Waters and then we'll take you, Chauke?
Chair, I do agree we should say the Portfolio Committee, but we've got to say the majority of the Portfolio Committee, because there is a distinction here. If you've served on that committee and you have tirelessly tried to hold the SABC account by getting your members on the Portfolio Committee to do what is expected of them, and they have failed to do so, you cannot expect members who've served on that committee and been so frustrated to accept this, that they are now lumped in the same group as everyone else in that committee who blatantly just went along with what the minister and everyone else said. You cannot expect that. I wouldn't expect it of any of you to sit here if the shoe was on the other foot. Now, Chair, we've had evidence, and rightfully so, where the minister said she went to the Portfolio Committee with the MOI and they accepted it, or the majority members accepted it, as well as the board members.
You're talking point 19, right?
Yeah. So the fact is, the majority of members of that committee did relinquish their constitutional duty. They did. So the wording has relinquished constitutional duty is quite correct. And that the majority of Portfolio Committee members were complicit in the gradual decline of good governance accountability is quite correct. So I don't think we should sugarcoat the failings of the majority of members on that committee by saying they may have, they did. But there's lots of evidence in the public domain. One of them in particular, which we've referred to in this document, is the court case with the Democratic Alliance taking the appointment of the CEO to court. And it was never presented to us formally, but we've used it, in fact, in this document. So we've got a precedence for that. So the fact that my party went to court means, we wouldn't have, it cost us a lot of money. We wouldn't have sat there in the committee, and we didn't sit there in the committee, all of you know that, just being complicit in allowing the minister to run shot over the SABC. We fought not physically, but verbally, we fought and fought as far as we could, and when we exhausted all avenues, we went to court, right? And we won, four times on the same case. So you cannot expect Honourable Van Dam and Honourable Davies to be painted with the same brush as MPs who were complicit in disregarding their responsibilities. And that's what I want to say, Chair.
Now, honourable members, put your hands down, all of you. I thought we had agreed there's two positions on this matter. There's a position that says, don't paint all of us with the same brush. There's another position that says, this is not the portfolio or a subcommittee of the portfolio committee. Now I'm saying there's another view that says that. We're going to put both views on the table. On this one, we're going to vote. There's just no two ways about it.
Yes.
On this one, we are going to vote because it's clear that we can't reach consensus on it. So I'm not opening up debate on this matter anymore. We will put both views and we'll discuss on them tomorrow. What I'm saying, honourable members, we have time constraints. I'm suggesting that political parties offline go and try and reach consensus if you want to reach consensus, but in this meeting, we are not going to entertain that discussion now on this matter. I have to make a ruling because we've spent more than 3 hours. We've allowed people everybody's views. I can't see us changing now that we want to resolve it now when we haven't done it with any other one. So I'm not entertaining this one until we discuss it tomorrow. That's the ruling from the chair. We'll put both views. Now, I don't care how you feel about it, Mem Van Dam, because as the chair, at some point I must take over. At some point I must take over, and I can't have everybody co-chairing with me. The ruling is that tomorrow we'll have two views, and we will discuss those views tomorrow. So we are moving away from this matter. Is there anything else on page 44 up to point 19 that members want to put on the table? Yes, sir. And Singh will follow.
Yes, Chair, we accept your ruling on this matter, but on number 18, which is just line 2, the SABC employs a cop with cops, not with an E at the end. Otherwise, ungabe zidumbu, kugcwele idumbu.
People say diplomatic cops.
Thank you very much. Honourable Singh.
I don't know if we're ready to be cops yet. Similarly, just in the third line from the bottom.
Page 18? I mean, point 18.
Same one.
Yes.
Point 18. It's a broadcasting the B charter, broadcasting charter.
Yeah, broadcasting charter.
You saw that? There's a broadcasting charter.
Oh.
And Chair, there, which we say, which has undoubtedly contributed to the damage to the SAB's reputation as a public broadcaster. Now, I don't know if I read or whether it came before the committee, where people spoke about the loss of revenue, advertising revenue and listenership because of this policy, 90-10 policy. And I think that's an important fact. If we're losing revenue, SABC is losing revenue and losing listenership, then you've got to relook at the policy. So it's an observation that we made and we got from evidence. Thank you.
Take away the word damage, we say loss of revenue and listenership. That's what we're suggesting? Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Anything else on page 44 up to point 19? Up to page 19, then we want to go on to the recommendations. Up to point 19. Point 19 is done. All right. So we now have done with part D, and of course there will be 3 or 4 issues that we'll come back to, those that have been crafted by various members, plus the 2 or 3 areas where clearly we've not been able to reach consensus. So those we will revisit again tomorrow, so it's not the end of the show today. Up to point 19, ma'am. New ones.
Chairperson, no, when we get to recommendations, I would just like to make a recommendation.
No, we've done that with everything else. What's the time, Cindy? 4. All right. Can members take 3 minutes break? We'll then 3 minutes break, and then we'll come and take your recommendation and recommendations, and then get into recommendations. Is that okay? Yes, sir. Thank you very much. No, hold on. Honorable members, just before you go, logistically, we cannot be here longer than 6 o'clock. Is that what you said? No. Yeah, no. What Cindy is saying that if we are here longer than 6 o'clock, we need to make special arrangements. We can be here until midnight, but I'm hoping that we'll be out of here in the next 2 hours. No, I was just saying that before you go. That's why we're taking a 3-minute break.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes.
Chair, is it, I'm looking at, yeah, Chair, is it possible that we can postpone the recommendations and deal with them tomorrow first thing in the morning? Because we still have a day, so that number of colleagues have to leave at 5. I mean, we are very much exhausted too. Can we deal with that tomorrow morning, Chair, the recommendations?
All right, before you go there, remember, honorable members, we need to adopt this thing tomorrow. We've already taken 3 extra days, and tomorrow's Friday. If we entertain Chauke's proposal, what it means is that we're going to have to start at 8, do everything else. You're going to have to give us an hour and a half to go and incorporate what you've done from 8 until 9 or whatever, because then when you adopt, you must adopt the full report. That's what it means. So you'll start at 8, you'll work until 10, you'll take an hour and a half break for us to clean it up, you'll come back at 12 and you'll do the adoption. That's the only way we can do it if we take the childcare route. If we did it the today route, we would have done everything, given you the document tomorrow, and then come and adopt it. Those are the 2 options that you have. There's a 3rd option, yes, ma'am?
Chairperson, my recommendation on the recommendations would actually be that we park the recommendations until we get the feedback from affected parties. The reason being, if we come to recommendations as we have it now, it means that we are actually not considering input, where some of our observations could be incorrect, and we must also be very specific that those affected parties can only correct the observations that we have made on the basis of what they have supplied. They can't come with new evidence. It must be on the evidence that they have supplied. We can't deal with new evidence. But that we then not proceed with the further deliberations on the recommendations, because we could be wrong if they present and say to us, you have not read X, Y, and Z, and therefore you cannot make such a recommendation. I would like to suggest that we are actually exposing our process to the situation where we have made our conclusions before we've had the input on our observations and the body of our report. In so doing, Chairperson, I would like to argue that we could even place the entire process at risk, because people could then say, here you have found X, Y, and Z. We are now going to go for an interdict that you cannot submit the report to Parliament. So I just wanted to say to members, should we not perhaps deliberate on the impact of concluding on recommendations before we've actually had feedback from those affected parties? That would be my recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
I was saying, Chair, that maybe before you open it, the first recommendation, I want to withdraw it.
Which was the first one?
The one that says postpone and then tomorrow. You remember? This is what I was saying. So then we can then entertain the second one. I think all of us can then participate in the second one.
Right. Whatever the second one is, we discuss. Yeah, I'm going to get everybody's going to comment on this one, by the way, so you can put your hands down. Everybody's going to comment. We stop where we are, adopt it tomorrow after having cleaned it up and argued the 1 or 2 points that we have outstanding. Okay?
I say we still adopt it as a draft because it's going to come back for the input and then we finalize it, then we send it to Parliament. So it's still draft.
That's the point I'm making. It's draft until the 21st or 22nd. We stop where we are, but we finalize what we've been doing today. There are 3 or 4 points that we need to argue and correct. Adopt it, send it off to the affected parties to look at everything up to that point. It returns to us on the 21st or the 22nd. We reconvene, consider their recommendation, consider their input, do our recommendations, submit it to Parliament. The other one was we do what we were doing now, finish everything, send it to affected parties with recommendations. Those are the 2 options that are on the table now. So when I open up, everybody must be able to say which option, because you brought that recommendation to and it's important because it then determines how we carry on from here. So we're going to talk just to those 2 items. Everything up to point 19, I'm not opening it up anymore. Is that okay? It's just on the process. Well, I don't know if you still want a 3-minute break or you want to just do it now. And let's do it. All right. All right. Okay, let's do it. We're back to being principle again of number of minutes, because I don't want somebody to talk for half an hour. 3 minutes? Yes. 3 minutes a person? Yes. To talk on options? All right. We will... Must start by you.
Yeah. Ladies first, ladies first.
Yeah, no. Nobody's co-chairing with me, no. No, it's 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes for everybody. We will start here, go all the way down there, up to childcare. And then we're going to decide on the way forward. Once we've decided on the way forward, we will then pronounce to our friends in the media and everybody else what's the way forward. That's really what we're going to do now. Starting with you, ma'am. Your 3 minutes starts now, and I'm going to be very strict with 3 minutes.
Thanks, Chair. My proposal is that we continue. This report means absolutely nothing if we do not devote the time that we need to the recommendations. It means absolutely nothing. The key part of this report is the recommendations, which will detail what we as a committee think needs to happen to steer the SABC to calm waters, and what needs to happen to hold those people who created that mess at the SABC accountable. I absolutely, strongly do not support a position that says we must not do the recommendations. We've already spent hours talking about the recommendations. Why are we now at the 11th hour getting cold feet and saying, no, let's not touch the recommendations? We need to be firm. We need to give strong recommendations. And when we submit the report for comment, we submit a full report where the affected parties can also comment on the recommendations. There is precedent. Parliament has had ad hoc committees before. They've had parliamentary inquiries. All those reports have had recommendations. It's never happened that half a report is submitted without recommendations. So we've got the evidence in front of us. We've got enough to make recommendations, and we must submit a full report. In fact, even the public protector, when she drafts her reports, her interim reports, which she then sends to stakeholders for comment, those reports have recommendations. So there is precedent for reports to be submitted with recommendations. So I strongly do not support a position that's saying we must do half our work and get cold feet now. I would have understood if there was a position from the get-go, but now that we have to make tough decisions, suddenly there's cold feet. I do not support it, Chair.
Chair, thank you. I support the option of continuing today and finishing. I'm wary of the fact that we probably will run out of time on Friday, and we need to get this report finalised, the draft report finalised and sent out to the stakeholders. It doesn't make sense in law that you would send half a baked report out to people to comment on. So you send them a report that has no recommendations. And are we honestly expecting that when we do table the full report, we won't have any legal action taken against us? We're going to be in court for months. People will say due process was not followed, it was not fair. They had no opportunity to respond to the recommendations. Yes, we're giving them the rest of the report with observations, but that doesn't mean, if you look at the observations, what a recommendation is going to actually entail. So we are basically hampering the ability of people who get this report to comment on the recommendations. It is a draft report, and as Honourable Van Damme said, the public protector does it, and what she did before is that when she receives comments, if she needs to amend the report in the body, she will do so, and subsequently she'll also amend a recommendation before releasing the report formally. And I think that's the process we've got to go through. We've got to be meticulous and how we deal with this report. If we fall at the last hurdle simply because we're too embarrassed or we don't want to deal with the recommendations because they might cause a bit of be uncomfortable politically, we're not doing a service to the SABC. So that's the one point I want to make. I think if we carry on tonight, we can get the recommendations finished. That will give the staff enough time to massage the report into something we can work with tomorrow. We come back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We'll deal with the report, and we should be finished, hopefully, by lunchtime. So that's my proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. No, my view is we need to finish. We're under a lot of time constraints. We need to finish today. I understand the concerns about the recommendations, but if we emphasize from a legal perspective that this is an interim, first it's an interim report. Secondly, the recommendations have been broadly discussed in the open domain, and we are following an open and transparent process. I think we definitely need to include the recommendations in this interim report, and we can even say that these recommendations are not final and subject to the obtaining of further submissions by those affected. So you put that caveat in to say these are not final, just to emphasize that this is an interim report and that these recommendations are not final and may be amended on the submissions received from those affected parties. And that would largely cover us from a legal perspective. I think there is precedence about sending out the full report. And as I say, the most important point is that we've adopted an open and transparent process, and most of the recommendations that we have already suggested and discussed are in the open already. So I think it's important for us to send a full interim document that can be commented on with that legal caveat that the recommendations are not final and may be amended on the submission of representations from affected persons. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, thank you very much. Unless I'm misunderstanding Honorable Killian, and I'll apologize for that if I'm misunderstanding her, this entire debate is about timing. How much time do we allocate to ourselves today and tomorrow to deal with the conclusion of the report, which in my understanding is to deal with the recommendations as well. At no time did I think that she suggested that we don't deal with recommendations. But what she said was, in my impression, is that for us to come to recommendations, we must agree on the observations. And let us get our secretariat to work on the observations, bring it to us in the morning between 8 and 9 or whatever it is. We agree or disagree and have a debate on the observations. We finalize that. Then we move on to the next logical step, which is drawing recommendations arising from observations. Because what you are saying, and what I understand you said, is let's have a firm base. We cannot move on to recommendations without us agreeing on observations. So I would suggest, as you had suggested yourself, Chair, if we want to stop at this point of observations, let us do so that it can be cleaned up. Let's come back at 8, finalize the observation, and from there were only about 2 or 3 points which I think require some kind of a discussion. Then we don't need much time for that. Then we move directly on to recommendations, consideration of the recommendations, and see how far it takes us. But at the end of tomorrow, whatever time it is, we must have a completed draft report, including recommendations of this committee that we put out to public comment to the parties that we agreed on. That's the way I always thought we were operating. So, but something seems to have gone awry here, where we're saying, no, let's leave out recommendations. It was, when do we consider it? Tonight, the complete process, or tomorrow? So I would suggest that let us get the Secretariat to clean up the document as far as page 43. After that, we don't have any debate on that. Only the observations, because that's the most important aspect that we need to look at. 8 to 9, we should be done. Move on to recommendations, get them typed, bring them back to us in an hour or so, and we finalize recommendations. That's what I would propose.
Chair, I want to say every part of this document is important. And from the very onset, we pointed out that this is an interim document. I therefore believe that the view expressed by Honorable Killian would have mattered most if from the very onset we didn't bring in the recommendations. Now, we have the recommendations which are interim in as much as the entire document is interim. It is therefore my fervent view that we work on the document as a whole, ensure that we complete our work, because we are pressed, time is not on our side. And of course, the recommendation form the crux or the climax of the document. But that does not say the entire document is not important. I would therefore suggest that we, as Honorable Singh says, we may stop now, come back early in the morning to work on the entire document and ensure that we finish the entire document. And there is no way we cannot send the recommendations as well to the people, because already with the reports that they have, be they interim or working documents, but it's already in the public domain. When the report is sent out there, it will have to be sent with the recommendations, and we take it from there. I'm therefore of the view that, well, we can stop now as Then tomorrow, 8 o'clock, we come back. We work on the recommendation flat out, and the recommendations, which is the last part, and then we are able to complete our work tomorrow.
Thank you, Chair. You know, Chair, there's this thing called superiority complex and inferiority complex, and they like the twins, one being a male and the other one a female, you know? And you see, I think there is a point that we are missing here, and we are going to become self-defeatist as this collective. We've been working so well together. Number one, I think the assumptions that some people are having cold feet is just a grandstanding. And no one here, every member of this committee has been extremely committed into this process, and we are definitely going to be extremely decisive. Here are the reasons why I am supporting Honorable Killian, not because she is the African National Congress. If I was just supporting people because they are just African National Congress, I would not have been like I was with the Honorable Minister, with Honorable Ben Kubane. They are my comrades. But to me, when something is wrong, when it's right, and that's it. And these are the reasons why I think the point that she's making is important. One, we cannot compare this ad hoc committee of Parliament with the public protector. Our recommendations are recommendations to Parliament. It's Parliament that will take a decision on what happens with those. Whereas with the public protector, if the public protector comes with the recommendations though that will be coming from the public protector are not just recommendations. And Chair, I wanted to make this point very straight, that let's not compare apples with mountains. Let's compare apples with apples, and the reality right now is that we must not defeat ourselves by pronouncing ourselves on the recommendations that are still going to go to Parliament. We are going to be very thorough about it, and I can assure everyone about that. Thank you.
No, Chair, I think we stand to self-sabotage here if we stop such a glorious process that we've had so far. We've had a very open system of working. We have taken all our discussions out to the public, including the recommendations. I think to then, at the last minute, renege and hold back on the recommendations is precisely the thing that will sabotage us. So, and I don't, you know, we've built trust with both the people who have come here and with the public. Let us continue in that vein. Let us not jeopardize this process by suddenly changing direction on a very proper trajectory that we've taken so far. So my concrete suggestion is that let us continue and work on the recommendations, send it out to the people, and explain to them that even the recommendations themselves are not final. And that is because contrary to what is being said, is that we may find ourselves at the end of this process if we don't send out those recommendations, and then we send them out at the end, then people will say, well, cry foul and say, but we were not privy to these recommendations. So let's open it up. Let us be as open as we have been so far and not change direction, because that might be viewed as suspicious. And I think this process has gained the trust of the people. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm done.
Chairperson, I just want to say that this recommendation, and I think members of the African National Congress will take their own positions on this matter. It was not canvassed with any of the members. So please don't be so superstitious and allege any foul play in the process. The idea was simply to say, we want to make sure, because if we look at the document, for instance, if we look at the recommendations, we need to still work a little bit on it. Now, what we are saying is our staff must also get the document ready for us to adopt tomorrow for further distribution. So the draft recommendations were worked on before through a public process. We don't want to renege on anything. And there's no such thing as getting cold feet about things. It's how we craft, in the end, the body of the recommendations. That is also very important. It must make logical sense. So the suggestion was, let us canvass support for the notion that since we are engaging in a process, a deliberative process with those affected parties, let us then rather hold back on discussion, further discussion on the recommendations. But if the committee feels otherwise, Chairperson, we are ready to proceed with it, with the process. The idea was just to say, let the staff, let all of us who would submit additional sort of phrases, etc., do so, and then tomorrow we get well, in fact, later tonight, hopefully, we get the final document. We can proceed with that, but we're not holding back the document because the recommendations, which may still be changed going forward, will in any case be finalized at a later stage. So it's really neither here nor there, and it's not for getting cold feet. It's for really making sure that we do every effort, we make every effort to have a body of recommendations that can be implemented. So often Parliament's recommendations before the National Assembly cannot be implemented. We want to do a thorough job until the end. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I understand this report to be two parts. There's a part that needs the attention of the people that are directly affected, which is, to me, introduction up to our observations, where we can stand to be corrected by the people that participated in this process other than ourselves. There's another part which is recommendations, which is going to need an endorsement by Parliament, the institution that sent us to do the work we are embarking on currently. To me, if we send a full report which we have adopted, because to me, to adopt means you are saying it's a true reflection and it's what you are going to to view as a final product, rather than sending an incomplete product, because the recommendations are going to be affected by the comments that you are going to receive. So I wanted to support Honorable Gillian on that basis, because to me, there's nobody who was here who could say, why didn't you then go further to say what is it that you are recommending? Because we are waiting for that person's response so that we can apply our minds and come with a final product in terms of what is the recommendation. So I support Honorable Gillian's view on that basis. Thank you.
How I wish that we had a mini break so that we can discuss these things. But indeed, that proposal was defeated. No, we have no cold feet. We are not falling at the last hurdle. We have very many examples for the proposal by colleague Gillian You know, the management report that we were talking about earlier on has got no recommendations. It has findings. After interacting with those people, you then arrive at recommendations and conclusions. So we've got examples in the very Chapter 9 institutions that some of the colleagues have referred to. But indeed, the whole thing has been transparent. The whole thing will continue to be transparent until at the end. I think that's the attitude, that's the view. Indeed, people may have heard their names mentioned, people may have heard all these things, but my view would have been that for me, it would be fair that when you conclude about me mentioning my name, at least let me tell you that you misunderstood me here. And I think it is fair. And that's the attitude with which I am following on Member Killian's recommendations. Unfortunately that we, for this one, it would have been good if we had a closed meeting so that we thrash the things amongst ourselves, find common ground and move forward, Perhaps it's a lesson to learn that in future when we find a stumbling block of some kind, let's close up, discuss amongst ourselves and agree on a way forward. Now we're in the public and therefore, want to try and score points and whatever you have to. But that all, in the manner in which it is, it's okay. But our view, I think for now, is that we may sleep over the matter. Perhaps tomorrow we can come back with a changed view, Chair. Perhaps once we are closed, we can caucus amongst ourselves and we may change in the morning. I think so far we've done a good work. We can always progress in a different way if we get convinced otherwise. But I think for now, that's where I will end.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think most colleagues have sort of covered me, but I think our assessment, Chair, from my view is that in our assessment, we found that there's so much that still needs to be done around the issues of recommendations. As they stand currently, they're still very weak if you had to compare with the mess that we're dealing with. And that's our position. In fact, these recommendations, they are not speaking yet of the action that must be taken. So the appeal that we're making, obviously, is not like colleagues are deciding to hide something. In fact, we need to be very strong. We need to be very strong to uproot the level of mismanagement and corruption that has happened at SABC. So therefore, this proposal was not meant to renege or to cold feet, as you put it. It was not meant for that. We are here with a clear mandate, all of us. And the mandate is to clean up that space. And we are committed to do that, together working with ourselves as a team here. So therefore, I think, Chair, what we must then do, Chair, is that we may not even do justice as we now wishing that let's finish them now, let's do it and finish it now. We may not do justice based on what I've just said, that currently as they stand, in fact, there's still so much that needs to be done. We have put a deadline, Chair, of the report, that the report must go out. The issue that we are debating, obviously, currently now, it's about can we release the interim report with recommendations. The point that colleagues were making was simple to say that why we don't hold onto recommendations. Hold into recommendations, release our observations, the findings, release it there, and let the people who are affected comment. And very few people, by the way, who are going to be dealing with. If you know the people who have appeared here, there are very few people, there are not even 10 people that are going to be directed, in fact, to the report. Then we spend time to clean up SABC. And it's only through those recommendations that we can clean up SABC, which I agree with colleagues. So if we're going to rush, as we speak now, this information is outside, as we speak now. It's public information, it's outside there. There's nothing wrong to say, as we do this work, let's hold back into the issue of the recommendation. Not holding back like we are running away. Let's go and put more flesh into the recommendation, so that when they go out, they must bite these recommendations. We have been talking about the minister, we are not biting, in fact. We are not dealing with the point of cleaning up SABC. So the appeal that we are saying is that let's not rush them to that extent, but let's spend time and strengthen our recommendation. The report can go out.
The time is up.
But what we need to do is to continue with the work of dealing with the recommendation. Whatever comments that will come, we'll take into account those comments. but the final document will be enforced by the recommendations that we'll put. So therefore, Chair, I'm saying that we must not shy away, we must never run away. This is a task that all of us have been working together in this task, and we are not going to be using the political position, party position on this matter. So that's my point, Chair. I thought that I should just emphasize this point.
That's fine. All right. Honorable members, in the spirit that we've worked, we've always allowed people equal time and whatever. I want to put principles on the table and then make a proposal. I just asked Cindy now for the terms of reference. And it says we must do all our work. The committee must complete its business and report to Parliament by the 28th of February. That was the mandate that was given to us with all those things. The second point that I want to make, honorable members, is that, and you guys will give us guidance just now when I do our thing, that the ad hoc committee is not an autonomous body. We can't sit here and rewrite how work is done in Parliament. This is my views. That we've been sent to do a job, you go back and you say, well, the job is done, what do you want us to do next? And not for us to then decide how we take it forward. The third point that I am putting on the table, and you guys will assist us because all of us are shooting in the dark, is that from where I'm sitting, recommendations are subjective. It's our recommendations. And I'm not sure that our recommendations need any input by those who we are, I don't want to say overseeing, but those that are the subject of the inquiry. Because those are our objectives. I mean, our recommendations. The fourth point I want to make is, if we went the route of completing the recommendations, putting it out there, what is the purpose of going back to Parliament on the 28th when they are out there already? What do we want Parliament to do? Because the recommendations are out there already. So those are the points that I thought I want to put out there, and maybe the legal team must be able to tell us. And I'm not convinced, Honourable Van Dam, that you can compare a ad hoc committee with the public protector. It's just not the same thing. That is a decision, as somebody is saying here, of the House. It can't be a decision of an ad hoc committee. So I want to meet us halfway because I think time is of the essence. I beg your pardon? No. Can I finish my proposal? I wanted to say, because we put all these views, can we, first of all, ask you your understanding, if you don't have it, can we ask you to go and seek clarity from our principals, the speaker, whoever they are, so that when we meet at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, because either way we go, because we're meeting at 8 tomorrow morning. I thought somebody was saying, why 8? Because if we meet at 8 o'clock, we said we'd meet 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. If when we met 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, they said, there is no problem sending out this report with draft, then we must complete it, as we've said, from 8 to 10, fix it up and do it at 10 o'clock. If they come back and say to us, it's up to us, then we'll do what Honourable Waters is saying, then we vote because it's up to us. And if they come back and say, under no circumstances can you do it, then under no circumstances can we do it, because that's what they are saying. Because I think that's the fairest way to safeguard all of us. I am quite willing to meet at 8, and if all systems say that we can do it, I really don't think there's anything that we've hidden. I also think we all, as we sit here, know that there's probably going to be 1 or 2 areas that we're going to vote on. Everything else is out there in the open. So there's no suspicion on this side or that side or that side. All I want at the end of the day is that We shouldn't be challenged by our principles. We shouldn't be challenged by those that are subjected to our work, and we should be able to defend it. So the firm proposal that I'm putting on the table, honourable members, having listened to everything, if you guys have the capacity to answer now, you could. If not, can you guys come back and we give you 10 minutes tomorrow to tell us what is the legal position, what is the common approach, as Honourable Van Dam is saying, the public protector does it this way, can we use that as precedent? And at 8:15, we then sit, having listened to all that input, to take a decision. That's the proposal that I'm putting on the table, because I think we will then have covered everybody and we would not then be in default. But I don't want to reopen it. I'm saying, does somebody want to talk on the proposal?
Chair, I just want to say now, accept your proposal, save that tonight, the observations.
Yes, that's what we're
Everything
gonna
up to now must be cleaned up so we can carry on working tomorrow.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
the
I'm saying the report will go out before 8 o'clock. Cindy and I will give you this report up to this point before 8 o'clock, and we can take it. Let's take Van Dam, let's take Kubisi on my proposal or an alternate proposal, and Chauke. Van Dam, Kubisi and Chauke.
Chair, why I'm saying cold feet, we have discussed recommendations so many times. Why I have my difficulty is understanding why now at the 11th hour suddenly, no, we don't want to discuss recommendations. No one has said anything now to allay my suspicion. It doesn't make sense to me why now all of a sudden. Can then, if legal services is going to look at this, give us an example one of an ad hoc committee that has sent a report for comment. Look, I'm not going to use the public protector. Gandla ad hoc committee. Did that committee send a report to the president to give comment? And then is there precedent of any committee ever sending a report without recommendations for comment? If there's precedent for that, then we may consider it. But I don't think there's any in existence.
Fine. No, that's fine. People must talk to me about this matter. I think she's got a point, because that's what I was saying. I was saying go and do some research for us and come back to us. I don't want this thing to be politicized, honourable members, because, you know, Honourable Waters, you're running dangerous grounds if you say we must vote, because the vote becomes final. It becomes final, and I'm just warning everybody here, let's be mature about this thing. My proposal is, because it's uncharted waters, what is the problem if we ask the legal team to go and do some homework for us and come back tomorrow in 15 minutes?
Your proposal still stands, Chair. You wanted to continue today.
Chairperson, I have my hand up.
Honourable Kubisi.
Chairperson, we've covered a vast ground, and we have covered some ground, and that must be cleaned up, and won't go back to that one. And your proposal that we come back tomorrow to work on to listen to the legal advisors, so that is accepted. Thank you.
The issue that I want to clarify, Chair, is that no one is running away to deal with recommendation, as Honourable Van Dam says. No one. No one has said that. In fact, we are saying that, what we are saying, in fact, is that we need to work more on the recommendations, put more flesh on the recommendations. This is what we are saying. The issue of taking it out is something what the chair has already made a proposal, which I support that proposal. But the issue is that let's put flesh here. Let's spend more time. No. Let's spend time. Chair, let's spend time, put flesh into the recommendations so that when they go out, they bite. So that when they go out, they bite, Chair. This is what we want.
I don't want to ambush you. Is there something you guys want to say? Hold on. You guys want to say now, or you'll give us some kombandlela tomorrow? Okay, let's summarize, honourable members. You don't have the venue. Huh? Honourable members, V475, 475. V475 at 8 o'clock. From 8 to 8:15, the legal team will tell us what is permissible and what is not permissible. If it is left to our discretion, then we discuss it amongst ourselves. If it is something outside of our hands, we live with it, or and we take it from there. What you will get before 8 o'clock is this report as cleaned up as far as possible, with maybe 3 areas where we have 2 or 3 views, which we'll discuss. If we go ahead tomorrow, we'll first clean up those 3 areas, finish them. So when I say 3 areas, there might be more, and then we get straight into the recommendations and deal with the recommendations and take a decision. Either way, I don't think we've lost. As long as everybody accepts that we'll work, we'll take a 2-hour break, we'll come back and conclude. As long as everybody accepts that in principle, all it means is instead of fighting about it now, we'll fight about it 8 o'clock or 8:15. Is that okay? Tea at 7:30, we can meet at 8 o'clock, V475. Is that okay? Hey.